Thanks for joining us online. Stay tuned for the weekly teaching at the Sanctuary.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Good. Okay, there's not enough energy in this place. You guys are dead this morning, so I can't believe I'm going to say this. So, yeah, this is a bad day for me, but a good day for you guys as Leaf fans. So, to get some energy in this place, because I don't know what's going on, you Leaf fans can stand up right now. So come on, I'll sit down. Stand up. Come on, everyone stand up. Come on. I'm the pastor. Stand up. Let's go. All right. You've been waiting 48 years for this. Get it out of your system. You beat the Montreal Canadiens 6-0. Have a big cheer. Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. All right. Welcome, everyone. For those of you guys who are regulars, thank you for coming. If you are a visitor, a special welcome for you. We appreciate you giving us your time to come here on Sunday morning. And we hope that no matter who you are, no matter what your worldview is, no matter what's going on in your life, that today, through these amazing people, in interaction with them, through music, through the message, through prayer, everything, that God speaks to you. That you get something out of this. And it may be encouragement, it may be conviction, it may be a friend. But we hope that this time with us is beneficial for you, and that in some way it brings you closer to a God that loves you like crazy, because that's what we believe here. This is what gathers us here, not just to hang out, but because we have given our life to a God that's given his life to us. So we are in week 3 of our current teaching series called Life Hacks from the book of Proverbs. Last 2 weeks, we talked about friendships. You remember the first week? We looked at dysfunctional friends. We went away thinking, wow, I don't have as many friends as I thought I had. Or, wow, maybe I'm a bit of a dysfunctional friend. I have this issue. And then last week, we looked at genuine friendships, the signs or characteristics of genuine friends. And we finished with that challenge of let's be people that seek out and also are genuine friends to people. We are going to continue with this series today, and we are going to be looking at our words. It's interesting, that little clip there from the invention of lying, and talking about what would a world be without lies. And so they do this weird kind of spin on it. But we're actually going to focus in on this morning some of the destructive words of that we speak. And then next week, we're going to do just like we did the first 2 weeks. We're going to come back and look at the positive words. We're going to call them actually death words and life words. Now, also a mention, I think over 3 weeks, we've been having Wi-Fi issues. It's because they've redone all the system here at Sheridan. So we apologize. We've been working on it. Sheridan's working on it. Obviously, if you have 3G, you can get your notes, and I encourage you to follow along on our app. Right at the front, the big thing on the big picture on the front, community groups, you tap that, you look down, it says message notes, and you can actually follow along with everything that I'm saying today to take home and share, or maybe to ponder deeper at another time. But I invite you to use those things. Okay, today I want us to focus on becoming people who give life through our words. Our words can be incredibly significant, can't they? They have the power to lift people up to the highest of highs, or take them captive to the darkest dungeons. We use words to communicate our everyday, our entire life. From the very first word that we speak as a child or as an infant, we are then encouraged to speak more and more and more. I remember when I had that concussion from hockey, and one of the side effects I was experiencing was with my words. And I would be in conversation with someone, and then I kind of knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it. And it was so frustrating for a couple months not being able to communicate my words effectively. We communicate through our words. They're very important for us to discuss, and we use a lot of those words. A recent study in Science magazine reveals this. An average woman speaks 16,215 words per day. Now, you know that stereotype? I grew up with the stereotype that women speak far more than men. Yeah. Men speak 15,669 words during the day per average. So there is no significant gender difference whatsoever. Of course, within the gender, you have some men that speak less and some men that speak a lot more, and the same with women. But there is essentially no difference between genders on how much we speak. Almost 16,000 words, you and I speaking every day, communicating good and bad. And so it should be of no surprise to us that the author of the book of Proverbs, who gives us wisdom on the key things about life and how to live like God and how to have a healthy life to the full, that he spends more time speaking about our tongue and the words that we speak than family, than sex, marriage, so many other issues. One Bible scholar actually estimates that Proverbs has over 90 verses solely devoted to how you and I speak to one another. And in Proverbs 18, verse 21, this is what we're going to anchor everything in today and next Sunday. The author says this: the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. As you read the book of Proverbs, it becomes very clear that the words we speak have the power to bring people death or life. The words that we speak have the power to bring death or life to people around us. Everything we say, everything we text, tweet, or email can either be medicine or poison for the soul. Think about that in your marriages. Think about that in your friendships. Think about that at work or school, church service. And so over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at this. And I invite you, like myself, to pay attention and to receive the words that God wants to speak to you and I. And have us consider, are we people that bring words of death or life in our relationships? Well, let's begin. The first word of death that we need to avoid is lying. Lying is a word of death. Our culture, and I don't know if it's just me, but I find that our culture doesn't seem to treat lying as a death word. We try to actually diminish the destructiveness of our lies, labeling them as what? White lies. And who gets hurt by a little white lie? Or so we tell ourselves. And another incredibly timely moment. This past Thursday, I was preparing and meditating on this message. The BBC ran a main article called "The Devious Art of Lying by Telling the Truth." The devious art of lying by telling the truth. Do you know what that means? Let me explain it, because we all do it. Politicians they've perfected this. Let me give you an example. As a parent, I say to one of my kids, "Hey, have you done your homework that you're supposed to do for Monday?" And one of your kids responds, "Hey, I've written an essay on Tennessee Williams for my English class." Now, they answered your question with the truth, but they didn't finish their homework. They told you what they did. That was the truth. But they were very devious, and they sidestepped your question. Did you know that even our culture, who often looks at lying and says it's not a big deal, our culture has identified that as a lie. And our culture says that misleading by telling the truth is so common, not only with politicians, but in your and my life, that they've now given a name for it. Does anybody know the word for when we lie by telling the truth? Anyone? It's called peltering. So there's a new word for you. Peltering. I'm going to be using that on my kids all weekend. Peltering. We lie or palter all the time thinking, it's no big deal. That's not so serious. But when I look at Scripture, I realize that God takes lying very serious. In fact, God hates lying. He hates that kind of death speech. In Proverbs 6, verse 16 to 19, the author says that there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. And here's the list. The Lord hates haughty eyes, which means arrogance, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Did you notice where lying ranks on the things that God hates? Look at this list. It's a list of poison. This is a list that gives death to people. This is not a list that gives life to anybody, including ourselves. Lying is number 2 on God's list of the things that he despises. In Proverbs 26, verse 28, the author says, "A lying tongue hates its victim, and flattering words cause ruin." As we go deeper into what is happening when we lie, when those words leave our mouths, we begin to understand why God hates it so much. The author says that our lying is actually a sign of hatred towards other people. Have you ever thought about that? This was really something that convicted me this past week as I prepared for this message. And let me give you an example of how this works. Again, I'll just use one from marriage. I have a lot of experience in failure in marriage, so here we go. Let's say that you're married and you're on a strict budget. You guys are on a budget because, times are tight. You want to have some savings. You've got stuff for your kids, in the future, and that you have to save for. You're on a tight budget. You've made a commitment. Like Krista and I, we give ourselves like an allowance in our budget, and you can spend that every week, and then you're done. So let's say that you are on that budget with your spouse. You've made that commitment, and you get in this habit where you're buying stuff, you're purchasing things, and you're not telling your spouse about, and you've been hiding it. And then your spouse finds out through bank statements and stuff that money's missing. Now, I got to tell you, I can't even do this. I can't even do this. Krista has this app on her phone, and it's connected with all our accounts. And so, like even the last couple months, as I've been on kind of a diet trying to lose the weight from what happened with my ACL injury. I can't do anything. I can't sneak anything because all of a sudden any purchase pops up on Krista's phone, and she's calling, "Are you a Krispy Kreme? Did you just buy 12 donuts? No." And then I'm deleting the calories from my iFitnessPal. No. I can't even do this. But let's just imagine your spouse doesn't have that kind of security watching you. And you start to spend money outside of your commitment to your allowance and your budget. And your spouse comes to you and says, there's money that's being taken out here. I've noticed this. And you lie about it. You hide about it. Maybe you lie by telling the truth, whatever it is. And you think, oh, okay, she or he didn't know, Christ is diverted. You might think that by covering up that little purchase isn't a big deal. But it is. Well, or else we wouldn't be trying to cover it up, right? It's deception to someone we love. But our lying goes deeper than this. There's another layer here. You see, that lie can be regarded as theft. As if we stole money from our spouse and our family. That money was not exclusively our own. And through deception, we have hidden it, stockpiled it, spent it without trying to tell people or coming clean. We've taken that money from our loved one for our own personal gain. And so when we place that kind of lie under investigation and peel back all the layers, we find that the motivator is hatred for the one we lied to. A little white lie it is not. Now, we lie for different reasons, right? We lie for many different reasons: to gain respect, advance our careers, cover up our tracks, jealousy, fill in the blank. But think about this. As people called to live by the truth through our relationship with Jesus Christ, we prevent truth from advancing through the darkness of this world every time we speak a lie. I have to tell you, this pierced my heart this week. To realize that every time me, who say, God, I know what you've done for me. I'm amazed at what you've done. I give you my life. You are truth, and I am going to try to live like you. I know I'm flawed, but I'm going to try to live it like you, Lord. Every time I speak the death words of lying, I not only stop the advancement of his kingdom of light, I'm advancing the kingdom of darkness. The very thing the very destructive force that I am called to fight against for the benefit of people around me. That's very convicting. And so I hope that puts it in perspective for you as well. Lying is a powerful death word. Let's move on. I've actually lumped gossip and slander together for this second one as death words that we need to avoid. And I'll explain why. In Proverbs 11, verses 12 and 13, it says this: mean-spirited slander is heartless. Quiet discretion accompanies good sense. A gossip can't be trusted with a secret, but someone of integrity won't violate a confidence. I've grouped slander and gossip together because when I look through Proverbs, and actually the entire Bible, the Bible does the same. All the authors tend to lump slander and gossip together because they feed off one another, and they are so incredibly similar. I don't know if I was to ask you to explain the differences between gossip and slander, if you even could. They're so close. So I want us to have a good hard look at these two, put them under the microscope. Let's look at the definition of, it's up there already, the definition of gossip. Casual or unconstrained conversation or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as being true. Gossip are casual conversations, things that we slide into conversations, details about other people that have not even been confirmed. Let me give you some examples. Office. Examples in our office, okay? Hey, I heard a rumor that Pat's cheating on her spouse. I heard that rumor. Did you? I heard the rumor that Pat is sleeping or is cheating on her spouse. Hey, I heard a rumor that Sebastian, he's got a drinking problem. Yeah, he's got alcohol in his car. I heard that Stuart is going to maybe be let go this Friday. I heard he's just not performing very well and his manager's really fed up. Casual conversations about information of other people that are not confirmed. Proverbs 6 verse 28 says, a dishonest person spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. The Bible often uses the word whispering when it refers to gossip. And I like that. We whisper things and just put it out there. Gossip is secretive, lurking in the shadows with the potential to kill off important relationships. In Jerry Bridges' book titled Respectable Sins, he talks about gossip and slander a lot. And he says that they are obviously subtle by nature. They're not obvious sins in our culture. And as a respectable sin, gossip slips under the radar all too often, even in our church communities. We either don't notice it around us, or it's so commonplace that we think it would be petty to even address it. This is a thought that came to me this week, and it just helped resonate and put in perspective what gossip is. I thought, gossip speech are whispers with bite, cloaked in the veneer of harmless intent. Let me say that again. Gospel speech are whispers with some bite, cloaked in the veneer of harmless intent. And yet when we look at what gossip is, could anything good ever come from that? Now, look at slander. The definition of slander, the action or crime of making a false statement damaging to a person's reputation. When someone slanders another person, it's usually not a whisper. It's not usually there to put some doubt or to stir the pot. Slander usually is driven by a very strong desire to purposely harm someone's reputation. When slander leaves our mouth, it's razor sharp on what its mission is. It's to wound and harm and bring somebody pain. Unlike gossip, we don't normally try to hide our slander because its intent is to harm. Let's look at an example or examples of slander in a church community. That guy is a racist. That guy in that small group, he's a racist. I heard that she has been cheating on her income tax with her new business to get by. I know it. That guy that comes in here, he's got a drug problem. He's got a drug problem. Yeah. I could tell looking in his eyes. Slander is meant to harm. And many of us love to speak slander, or especially hear it. It's for some reason slander is so enticing to our ears, regardless of whether it's true or not. And I began to think about this and study it this week, and I think I know why. We love hearing slander. You know why? Because it gives us power. It gives us power through information about someone else. Remember I said in the modern age, the slogan was, knowledge is power. And in the postmodern age, information is power. Information about somebody else gives us tremendous power because we could crush that person's life and highlight or lift our own self up by slandering one another. And an entire segment of our media today survives off of our craving for gossip and slander of others. You think about what's on TV. You think about the internet and websites. Just think, I'll just pull one out. Is it TMZ? TMZ, how many people know TMZ? Is that what it's called? So they live off this stuff. They exist because we thirst for gossip and slander. They wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for us. So I went on their website yesterday, and last night on their front page, they have all different people who potentially been accused of sexual harassment or abuse, and they want us to vote on whether they're guilty and what we should do to them. Okay? They want us to judge them before a fair trial of evidence. How maddening is that? And yet go on there and check how many votes they have. We love being surrounded by people's gossip and slander, whether we admit it or not. And so when we look at how gossip and slander can affect our relationships with our family, with our church, in the workplace and community, it should become clear that they are closely related and two of the most harmful forms of death speech that we use. And here's an eye-opener for you. Here is where we find the roots of slander. And I think that gossip is like an offshoot of slander. They're so close. Their intent is so similar. Their destruction is so similar. Here is the birth of slander. Most people don't know that the word that we use, the Greek word we use for devil in the New Testament, is called diabolos. You know what that actual word means? The Greek word is slander for the devil. So in Matthew 4, verse 1, Jesus then would say, Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the slanderer. In 1 Peter 5, verse 8, it would say, your adversary, the slanderer, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Oh. Slander is so closely tied to the character of the devil that he is referred to as a slanderer 33 times in the New Testament, only 2 times fewer than when he is referred to by his real name, Satan. And so when we slander, when we gossip, when we engage in the same activity as the devil, that very activity which he is most closely associated to, this should be an eye-opener to the destruction that we spew out and where it comes from and where it gets its power. Gossip and slander has no place in the mouths of those who are to give life in a relationship with Jesus. Finally, the last set of death words I wish to speak about today are rash words. Rash words. Do you know what that means, speaking rashly? Here's a definition. Speaking rashly is displaying or proceeding from a lack of careful consideration of the possible consequences of an action. In other words, speaking rashly is the spewing out of our words that are angry and unfiltered before thinking them through. Look what the Bible says about speaking rashly in Proverbs 12, verse 18. Rash language cuts and maims, but there is healing in the words of the wise. And in chapter 12, verse 16, it says, a fool is quick-tempered, but a wise person stays calm when insulted. When people use rash words, when you and I use rash words, they tend to be people that use rash words tend to be people who love to speak a lot, to hear themselves, people who have short fuses, anger issues, or struggle with pride. We see this as a trend from people like that. But of course, all of us can struggle with speaking rashly and putting venom out there without thinking it through. And I'm going to share with you something this week. I'm embarrassed to share this, but you need to know, you need to see we all are flawed. We are all on this journey to be like Christ, and we fail miserably at times. This very week, when I'm meditating, when my face is in the Bible, completely focused this week on gossip and slander and death words, preparing to relate this to you and what God is teaching me and enlightening me. This past Wednesday, I've been selling some stuff on Kijiji because, yes, we actually have to move again next year. And so we're selling things. Don't get me started. So I've been selling stuff, right? And I think I'm selling stuff at fair prices. But has anyone sold things on Kijiji and you get those low ballers that just really insult you? You get that? I need to buy a stress ball of Kijiji to deal with these guys. Anyways, you try to be fair on your prices. Someone comes and just like undercuts you by 50% and then insults you. I had this person this week. It's having a very difficult day, very busy, and I'm texting whenever I have an opportunity on the Kijiji app. And this person like undercuts me less than 50%. I'm already now insulted by this, but I'm trying to like sell. I'm like, okay, well, I can give you my best price here and that. Like, he responds, that's still way too much, man. I don't need this. I don't need that. I can get the same item for whatever. And at this point in this discussion, I'm pretty ticked off. I'm like, if you can get this, go get it. So I respond, hey, if that is available for you, I would encourage you to do that, and because I don't really appreciate being lowballed. His response back was, lowballing? You just don't know what you're talking about, and people don't want that crap that you're trying to sell and stuff. And he hit the nerve, right? Troll. He hit the nerve, right? Let me tell you, in all honesty and embarrassment, what I was texting to him. This is my actual words. Go. Please buy that other one. I hope you have a friend to borrow some bus tickets, because it's obvious from our conversation that you are an uneducated, uninformed, and unemployed loser. Now, may I remind you, this is being texted by a pastor who's speaking about death words. Now, to save a little bit of my reputation, I was angry. He was like, oh, you don't go there, right? And I'm texting this. I was even texting while I was somewhat driving, so that's really bad. So I'm just really a big sinner here. And I was about to send this message out to him, and God just stopped me. And I read these words, and my blood is boiling right now. I want to get this guy, because I can be really sharp and biting with my words if I want to be. And I read them, and I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of myself. And I deleted the text, and I just be gone with this guy, right? Even though I felt I had frugal, fair prices on Kijiji, I let them go. But look how far I went. Look what little amount of things got such a rise out of me, where I was about to spew venom to people without thinking. Rash words. I've found that although our culture prides itself on tolerance and acceptance of all opinions, it really often is just something that we use to push our own views on people. How often have you ever heard someone say, when they're in a discussion with difference of opinion of somebody on some hot topic issues in our culture, thank you for sharing your opinion. That's very different than my own opinion, but I appreciate where you are coming from. May I now take some time to share some comments on my own? How many times do we hear that? How many times do we say that? I wish it was more. But the way it often goes is, what? You're wrong. And without thinking, we have this rash speak and we shoot down other people's opinions, worldviews, whatever, without learning or appreciating where they're coming from or being gentle or even the big T word, tolerant. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle response diffuses anger, but a sharp tongue kindles a temper fire. It's one of the reasons why I love our Alpha group after the services on Sunday. Why I love our small groups. Our Alpha group have people of all worldviews, of all beliefs. We have people that might be agnostic Jew, people that are spiritual, people that are atheists, people that might be new on this journey of following Jesus, people that may have now been on the journey and having serious doubts. And we talk about Jesus, we talk about the essentials of our faith, and there is a freedom in the environment to disagree and to respect one another's opinions, unless you use the word non-believer, right, Joel? I'd apologize for Joel. That's a trigger word for me. But that is a perfect example of how we shouldn't be speaking rashly, and how a relationship and peace and life can come out of our conversations when we stop that urge to shoot someone down, to be opinionated, to bully someone with our words and opinion, and listen to them so we better understand where they're coming from. I often find that then they give us the venue and the place to speak our opinions as well if we do so in love. So I conclude with this. What areas of death speech do you struggle with the most? I've had a week to ponder this myself. What areas of death speech do you struggle with the most from what we've heard today? No matter what it is, I invite you and I, as people in love with Jesus, to bring to death all death-destructive words this week and embrace words that bring life. And I'm going to ask you as we close, the band comes up to play, that you just silently have a time with God where you just say, Lord, reveal to me the death words. Help me this week be a person that speaks life, not death. Let's pray. Amen.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or prayers, contact us at thesanctuary.ca.